What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? Welcome to Wednesday's episode. So definitely go back and tune in to Monday and Tuesday. Monday, we discussed North Korea's supply chain attack, at least it's being attributed to North Korea. Tuesday, we discussed ChatGPT and how it's coming for our jobs or not.
Our lives. Our lives.
Definitely tune into our paranoia about ChatGPT, or just the I think we like it, right, Shannon? Silence.
Shannon, it doesn't even have social media. That's Shannon.
Right. Definitely tune in for that. And then on Fridays, we talk about everything else, so movies, books, games, all that good stuff. So please like, share, subscribe. I'll try to remember to say that more often in the podcast, and continue to tune in, leave us your feedback. Without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
So for this one, right? So Microsoft pushes for more women in cybersecurity. So Redmond tops industry average, still got a way to go. So Jessica Lyons Hardcastle wrote this one, right? So what she's talking about here. So Microsoft started to partner with organizations around the globe to bring more women into infosec roles. But what they say here is the devil is in the details, right? So the Redmond partners include WOMCY, WOMCY, which is a nonprofit focused on growing infosec opportunities for women in the U.S. Women for Cyber, like the number 4 Cyber, which is another nonprofit working to increase women in cybersecurity jobs in Europe. The UN's International Telecommunications Union supporting its Women in Cyber Mentorship program with an emphasis on the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. So like international, right? So not just not just in the United States, but Microsoft is far reaching, right? So Microsoft says it's partnering at the country and local level organizations like, I don't know how to say this. When I saw this, I was like, I'm going to mess this up. But Kosciuszko Institute in Poland. And they do skills and internship program for women, right? So to include Ukrainian refugees for everything that's going on with them, right? So you see a lot of Ukrainians that are getting, what do you call it? They're getting not moved from their homes, but because of what's going on with them, they got things going on in their country. But refugees, right? That's what refugees means. But yeah, so like what they're doing, they're trying to put a dent in the gender inequality, right? So that's one of those things where when it comes to women, like there is such a small percentage of them when it comes to getting into IT and cyber, right? So and we talk about it on this podcast, like you would like to see at least, what the population, what the population of your certain place shows you or tells you is out there, right? So if we're going to say in America, 16% of the population is Black, right? Based off the last census, you want to see at least 16%, you know what I mean, in those industries. Like when it comes to women, it's even a higher percentage, right? Because it's not just one race, like you're talking about multiple races across a gender, right? So when you're talking about more than 50%, because I think women are up now, I think women are at like 51 or something like that.
Yeah, usually it's 51, 52%.
51, 52, right? Yeah. So they're like right over the halfway mark. So like at that point, like why are we seeing it at such a small scale, right? So but since the 1980s, right, like so you have women like in software development, right, and since the 1980s it's declined sharply. So it does remain an all boys club, right? It's one of those things where we see it to where it's mostly men, mostly white males, you know what I mean? And I'm not complaining, you know what I mean? I don't have anything against white males, but like if you're only making up for America, I'm just giving you American numbers, right? I don't know across the world, but if you're only seeing it at 68%, you know what I mean, being white, like that number has to come down from it being, the 80 some odd percent that it is, right? But yeah, they give different figures here too as well, like different age ranges and things like that for women and whatnot. And like let's see if I can find these numbers here, because they're talking about women, right? Making up just a quarter of the cybersecurity workforce, right? So you're looking at 25% as of 2021. And those who are in that 25% get paid and promoted less and leave the workforce faster than their male counterparts, right? So, and it could be for a multitude of reasons, right? It could be because, women, have babies, right? Like that's a life-changing thing for them to where they're like, maybe I just don't want to do this anymore if I have to try so hard to break that glass ceiling, you know what I mean? Like at what point do I have to devote more energies elsewhere, you know what I mean? And I realize that's kind of a, I don't want to say a sexist stance to take, but like, it's just, it's kind of reality in it, right? Like, I'm not having children, you know what I mean? You got a lot of these companies out there that aren't even giving paternity leave, you know what I mean? So like, if my wife has a baby, I have to take leave on my own or whatever, right? Like, I'm not
Right.
getting anything. So it's just one of those things where I am not to the point where I can be out. Like, more help is giving towards maternity leave, right? For women to take, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it may be. But the point being, they're trying to do something about this, right? So like, um, it, you want to hire more women into these roles, right? But like, even when you hire them in, like, what are you doing to retain them? That's kind of what they get into in here, right? So like, simply hiring more women is not a guarantee that they're gonna stay in the field, right? You still have your economic injustices for it, right? Like, they're paid less, right? They're paid, and I'm just trying to remember the figure. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it was like 78 cents to the dollar or something like that when it comes to women and pay discrepancy, right? So they're already getting, what is that, 22% less, you know what I mean, than their male counterparts. The reason for that could be a multitude of reasons, but even then, like, they know it. Those figures are out there, they're readily available. So like, what do you do to change that, right? So, but yeah, like, what are we going to do to change? What is going to be done to change this? And what can you do? Again, not just getting them in there, but to actually retain them once they get there. Like, what different things can be done with this? So getting them in there is a good step, good first step. I'm not poo pooing that, saying that shouldn't be what you do. You got to start somewhere, right? But there's more thinking that goes into this, and even in the article, I can't remember the person's name. They had a weird name that I can't remember. Was talking about, hey, it's not just enough to get them in. Like, you got to do other things to retain them. But yeah, so like, Ryan, what's your thoughts on this, man? After you
Yeah.
tell us to like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you for reminding me. Please like, share, subscribe, hit that bell. There's a bell associated with it, and share with your nerdy friends. Right, like help us continue to grow the podcast. Hopefully, in the near future, I'm hoping to find sponsorship in products and things that we actually use. Right, so now that I'm out there in the field, doing the God's work, cybersecurity. I would love to start working towards sponsors, things of that nature. But to get back on topic, so yeah, I do agree. It is a good. It's good to get women into the career fields to get them into the important places, right? The C-suite, senior level positions. I think there's several things that can be done, right? There's a multitudes of things that can be done. I think first off, it's transparency and pay, right? I know no one likes this, especially those who are making good money. A little bit of transparency will go a long way, right? Because when it comes to negotiating things of that nature, I've read articles in the past that say that women and minorities have issues with negotiations because A, it's a thing of confidence, and B, it's a thing of access. Like, we don't necessarily know what we're valued at or what we should be worth. A lot of that stuff is close held, and it's only shared with people who want to share it with their friends, right? So if you're not associated with people, you may not know. And I know it's taboo, and people are like, "No, you should just get better at negotiating." Well, it's been proven. Like, it's statistically proven that uh, we as in being people of color don't even apply for a job unless we check all the boxes typically. Like, so I read on several different things like, hey, even if you're only checking 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 boxes, you need to apply to this job regardless, because your other counterparts, white males, in this case, are just people who are not people of color, right? Are like they come in with a level of access and a level of confidence that differs to our own sometimes. So I think if you want to level set or you want to open up the field, being more transparent. That's not being transparent in a pay band as 99,000 to 199,000. That doesn't help anybody. No one is being held by that. So stop doing that. That's very annoying. It's more of like, hey, for this position, here's a tighter band. Let's say, I don't know, for a senior level position, it's between 150 and 165. Even that's kind of a big swing, but at least it's putting you in the ballpark. Because if a person says, yeah, I'll do this for 135, you'd be like, hired. We've saved X. And then when that person leaves, when they find out everybody else is making Y, then you're just like, I don't understand why we can't retain people. It's because your transparency is lacking. I get that it's about making profit, but if you want to actually stay the course, if you want to bring in more minorities and women and things of that nature into your company for diversity to make your company better, you need to be more transparent. And I think that will fix a lot of it. And I think secondly, when it comes to uh, hiring and retaining women, I think the UK does a really good job when it comes to maternity leave, right? Like a leave of absence over there is humongous compared to our own. And it's not a bad thing. Like people are like, oh, they don't work over there. They do work and they're very efficient and they also make money, right? But I think when you tell somebody that they have to come back to work immediately and then put their child in a daycare situation that they may not agree with, right? They'll choose their child over the job, and then they will leave you. So I think it's about making that accessible as well, whether it be to give them more time or to give them the ability to work childcare situation, maybe even do it remote if that's possible, to make it all work. It is a life-changing event, and a child is more important than your corporation. So they're going to choose their kid over you probably most likely all the time, if they can, right? Because there's also like people have to pay their bills and things of that nature. So if you are about bringing in more people, you need to make these concessions to make it work. So I know there's a CEO potentially jumping up and down their desk right now as I say these words. I'm not a CEO. I don't run a business, but it's just my opinion and my thoughts about it. So I think that those would go a long way to at least helping with retention, because I know that's the big thing, because we talked about it a few months ago, where like the women are leaving cyber at record numbers compared to other groups, because it is an all boys club and it's a lot of headache and heartache to have to fight every day for something. Like, oh well, you should just be tougher. Well, you're saying that from a position of power, right? Like I'm not saying that you didn't have a struggle to get to where you're at, to be in your position, but everyone's struggle is not the same as your own. Like there's a certain amount of empathy that has to be brought to the table. I want to see more servant leaders out there, because yeah, you can level set, you can do certain things, you can make the environment more accommodating to people without necessarily losing a bunch of profit. Like, I don't think that's the case any longer. At least, like I think COVID has taught us that, where people were making record-making profits, and their workforce was primarily working from home. Now they want to bring them back. Like, oh, they could be more efficient. They come back because you want to make more money. I get that, but if you're able to make concessions for periods of time, like let's say they remote work for as long as it takes for them to get a routine going with their child and things of that nature, then you can do that, because you can do that now, because COVID brought that to the forefront, at least in my opinion. But I'm going off on a rant.
Not at all, man. I was gonna say, man, I don't know if I should do finger snaps, claps, what, man? Like you on it, man. Like, yeah, like, yeah.
So, but we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. Like efforts are being made. Like we talk about it every few weeks. Companies as big as Microsoft and Apple and Google's are trying to work efforts to bring in more people of color, to bring in more women. Now it's about retaining them, like you said. So what are we doing with that when it comes to pay and maternity leave and all that other good stuff? Like you have to continue to move the baton forward. So hopefully they continue to do that. Efforts, and DE and I also come back on board now that we're not going through necessarily the hiring freeze and firing. At least I hope not. Like every week it goes back and forth. Like, hey, we're bringing people on, and then the tech company be like, hey, we're letting go 10,000 people.
We're letting go 10,000, 11,000, yeah. Right? Yeah.
Like we need to figure out what we're doing, people, like so we can move forward. So those efforts will also hopefully be more consistent in the near future. But continue to like, share, subscribe. Hit a bell, there's a bell, all that good stuff. Share us with your friends, and definitely come back to us. So Friday's episode will be everything else. So it'll be less serious than this conversation. So movies, books, games, and all that good stuff. Hit us up at all the websites that go by our name, and you can hit me up personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. I'm on Clubhouse, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Stay safe, stay secure. Thank you.